Thank you, Angela, for the introduction. Hello, my name is Caroline and I'm the Head of Midwifery and Gynaecology at the Northern Trust, and I want to thank NIPEC for inviting myself and Gillian here today to fly the flag for midwifery. So I've been asked today to come to talk about leading midwifery, my career pathway and future midwife, and Gillian's going to pick up on quality improvement initiatives in midwifery. So I suppose my mother thought I'd make a lovely nurse. I was all ready to go to art college, but I thought I'd give it a go. Now, I find sadness and illness and death quite difficult, so I thought maybe nursing wasn't for me. So I decided to go and do speech and language therapy as a mature student at the ripe old age of 23. But really missed the dynamic environment of the hospital. So the feminist in me sort of always thought, well, I always advocated for women, and I thought I'd go and be a midwife. And thankfully, that's where I really found my passion and joy at work. So after only 3 years of qualifying, I was just about eligible to apply for the midwifery-led care team. And alongside with Gillian, we looked after a caseload of women right throughout the continuum, antenatal, interpartum and postnatal care. And this really helped me to truly practice as an autonomous midwife, to hone my midwifery skills, my instincts and my intuition, and work in a way that truly reflected partnership working with women before co-production was ever really a thing. And then I advanced into a sister's post, and that really equipped me with leadership skills and the ability to work collegiately with a multidisciplinary team. And as practice development midwife, my passion for innovation and improvement was harnessed as I sought to bring new products and practices into this clinical setting. And as lead midwife, I began to really shape the service by writing successful business cases, which resulted in new facilities and improved services for women. And now, as Head of Midwifery and Gynaecology, my role is threefold, and I'm responsible for the strategic, professional, operation direction of midwifery and gynaecology services in our trust. So, any midwives in the audience will know this is a really extremely privileged and esteemed position in midwifery, and most days I can't quite believe I'm a head of midwifery. I have huge shoes to fill. Our predecessors would be known, much like famous pop stars, by first names only. So the likes of Liz B, Verena, Patricia, Zoe, all the midwives will know who I'm talking about. So I suppose I have on my slide there Generation Z and millennials. And I suppose I was really an early Generation Z in that these people will have 6 to 9 different career moves in there throughout their journey. But I suppose I think they're right. What I would say is don't settle for a career that you're not passionate or joyful about. Otherwise you will cruise, and at best you'll be mediocre in how you practice and in your behaviours, and in our caring professions that's just not acceptable. So what it is to be a midwife. And a huge part of being a midwife is being a feminist, as I've said, and it's about giving women the freedom to make choices you wouldn't necessarily make yourself. And I like this slide because it talks about, you're working in a patriarchal society when the word feminist has a weird connotation. What's the male equivalent? It's not really well known. So I suppose to me, why I'm a midwife, and this is why I'm a midwife. It is the best job in the world. I'm so proud to be a midwife. And Maureen talked about joy at work. Well, this is my joy at work. It is a fantastic job, and I've loved it, and I still love it. So I suppose throughout my career, I've demonstrated various styles of leadership, and leadership is really subdivided into two, professional and personal leadership. So the professional leadership is the what and the why, and that's about setting the vision and creating the processes for achieving organisational goals and ambitions, and then aligning people, processes and policy to achieve those goals. But this should always be combined with personal leadership, and this is the how and the behaviours that leaders display when they perform the responsibilities of professional leadership, and these are such attributes as honesty, integrity, passion and compassion. So I suppose professional leadership in midwifery, and midwifery has been quite challenged recently in that in 2015 the NMC made the historic decision to separate statutory supervision of midwives from legislation and to take complete control of midwifery regulation. So currently midwives make up 6.6% of the total number of registrants on the NMC register. And there's some controversial opinions that midwives are subsumed under nursing leadership, and that has some consequences when it comes to priorities and resources. Now, in Northern Ireland, we have always had a very collectively strong voice in midwifery, and Charlotte McCardle, our Chief Nursing Officer, has always been very supportive and engaged with midwives. I'm very fortunate in my trust in that I have a direct line of communication and accountability to my Executive Director of Nursing. But strong professional midwifery leadership is required to ensure midwifery is recognised as a separate profession, yes, distinct from nursing, but working in close partnership and collaboration with their nursing colleagues. And visible midwifery leadership and a strong voice to maximise the benefits of midwifery care for women and their families is requisite. So how are we regarded professionally? So we know the midwifery profession is highly respected, and it is a vital solution to the challenge of providing high quality care. An investment in midwives does improve the quality of reproductive and maternal and newborn health. And that Andrea Sutcliffe, or the Chief Executive of the NMC, states that midwives deliver fantastic care for women and families at one of the most important moments of their lives. And there is a considerable body of evidence which shows that midwives really do make a difference to the lives of women and babies on a global and national scale. So there are many iterations of leadership, and you will know some of these: transformational, transactional, facilitative, intentional, compassionate and collective, and many more. And I suppose you have to have the ability and the agility to move between different forms of leadership depending on the situation. But I suppose what really does resonate with me is collective leadership. And I know Charlotte has already talked about this, but it is about leadership being the responsibility of all. We all are leaders, and we need to ensure that our nurses and midwives of the future see themselves as leaders at that very point of being a student and at registration. And it is about those with the expertise taking the responsibility. But I also like the compassionate approach to leadership, which is authentic. There's openness, humility, optimism, and compassion and appreciation. So I suppose personal leadership for me, I talked about setting a vision earlier on. This is a vision I wrote in 2012 when I first became a lead midwife. And when I look back on it now, I do think it's a bit naive and gauche, but there's words in it that really still resonate strongly with me and are really important, particularly the word kind. And that midwives also gain professional fulfilment as confident, autonomous practitioners. So I suppose anybody that I have ever admired or respected, it's really not necessarily what it is they've done, but it's their behaviour that they've demonstrated. So I just love this quote from the Poet Laureate, Seamus Heaney, which is, "Behaviour that is admired is a path to power amongst people everywhere." And I just think that really resonates with us. I've always been accused of being too nice, and that Carolyn's too nice, and how could she ever hold people to account her? But again, it is a lazy opinion that somebody's too nice. They see kindness as weakness, but as its most unbelievable strength if you use it in the right way. And this again resonates a lot with what Maureen and Charlotte have talked about in their presentations. There is a movement called Civility Save Lives, and they talk about the recipients of minor incivility who have an immediate loss of cognitive capacity. They reduce the quality and time of their work, impacts on onlookers, but really importantly, they can potentially take out service users. So kindness, civility, respect is just so important in terms of leadership and behaviours. So again, leadership is to me about knowing yourself, accepting yourself. These things come with age, I suppose, to some extent, but I know I'm an introvert, so standing here in front of you today is a bit of a challenge to me, but it is about accepting that and pushing yourself. But I suppose the power of the introvert is that they have the ability to truly listen and not just hear. And this is the foundation of having a conversation, building trust, influencing others, resolving conflicts, driving your vision, building relationships, implementing change and learning. So again, you'll have heard this quote before: people will forget what you said, but never forget how you made them feel. And David Monteith, who is the father of his bereaved daughter Grace and the founder of Grace in Action, says that midwives are always remembered for one of two things: either you're amazing or you're not. That's not what he said, but so I just think that's really important to realise that. So I suppose how this all links into future midwife. So much of what I believe in is now embodied in the 5 domains of midwifery. So it's enabling midwives to provide safe, effective, respectful, kind and compassionate care. And there's that word again. It's about being accountable and autonomous midwife. It's about the midwife's ability to promote continuity of care and carer. It's about universal care for all. It's about appropriate care and pathways for women with complications. And it's about promoting safe and effective care with the midwife as a colleague, scholar and leader. And I suppose what is different really, we know that social changes, including population health profiles and growing inequalities such as perinatal mental health and health population is now so important. And midwives have always had that fantastic opportunity to address diversity and inequalities. And really that's something we need to really focus on going forward. In terms of technology, this is an absolutely fantastic opportunity for us to be innovative in terms of how we deliver education, how we deliver information to women, and also things like telemedicine and how we can look towards things like that within midwifery. An increased continuity of care and care, and again we know there's evidence to show that the work of midwives in keeping the women be safe and meeting their needs, advocating for their views and preferences is really important. And that really we have to co-design our care with the women, and each woman should expect a personalised plan of care. And again, women with complexities equally need a very robust plan of care co-designed with them. So it's about improving maternal and infant health, early intervention, and building family relationships. It's about having cultural competence in today's society and all the societal changes that have happened in recent years in terms of the modern nuances of equality and diversity and how families look now. And it's that notion of self-care and developing strength and flexibility in responding to stressful situations, and I think that's really important for our students of the future. So, the future midwife, as we see it, is we want to enable flourishing and inspiring future leaders in midwifery. We want the curriculum to be centred and wrapped around student midwives to prepare them to become skilled, knowledgeable, respectful, resilient and kind midwives of the 21st century. We want to enable midwives to provide equitable care across a continuum, and as a result improve maternal and child health and population health. And we want women and families to co-design their care, fully informed and supported by evidence-based midwifery care. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Gillian now.
Thank you, Caroline. Okay, I'm just going to give you a brief overview, my name is Gillian, of my career progression to date, and a lot of it has actually mirrored Caroline's, and we've worked together on a lot of occasions, and then I'm going to talk very briefly about my QI journey and finish up with the QI project that I'm currently involved in. So I am the project lead midwife at the minute, seconded post for the Active Birth Centre in Royal Jubilee, Belfast Trust. And I suppose my career pathway, those are all pictures of the different places and units I have worked, both nursing and midwifery. I qualified as a nurse back in 1989, and then as a midwife in 1993. I've worked as a midwife across a lot of the units in England, and then came back home to Northern Ireland in 1996, where I staffed in Royal Maternity as it was then. Following that, both Caroline and I got the opportunity to be involved in the initial implementation of midwifery-led services in Belfast Trust. This was before we had any birthing centres or midwifery-led units, and we both joined the midwifery-led care team, which was a team of midwives, as Caroline has already said, offering continuity of care through the antenatal, interpartum and postnatal journey for mothers. And that was a really privileged time for us, and we were utilising all our skills in midwifery. I then, as Angela mentioned in the intro, moved on to practice development in Northern Trust, and then moved back to Belfast Trust as an interpartum midwifery practice educator. So I've had a fairly varied journey, but all of it has been wonderful to date. I took up this seconded post into project lead in October just past. Along the way, like probably a few of you in the room that are as long in the tooth as me, it was a certificate in nursing that I achieved, then a certificate in midwifery, and I have since studied part-time for 30 years to achieve a diploma in midwifery, a degree in midwifery, and then was supported by the Northern Trust to complete my postgrad certificate in education, and then by the Belfast Trust to complete my master's in midwifery, including a research project. At the time, I wasn't sure what direction I was going to go. I had no idea. There were so many opportunities, and there's even more now. So many specialist roles in midwifery, researchers, leaders, managers, and I kind of floated into the educational sort of leadership side and then on into quality improvement. But like Caroline has mentioned, I've had the privilege to have numerous role models, very influential people, and again, I'm probably naming a few: Liz, Ruth, Margaret. And they not only influenced my practice, but they saw in me potential, and they supported and encouraged my professional development. And I think that's really important for us in the room today, that we look for the potential and we nurture our future nurses and midwives. Collaboration's been really a big part of my career progression, and that's with like-minded professionals, but also, just as important, is with our community groups and our service users. So my QI journey kind of started off with guideline development, audit, like probably a lot of you in the room, small initiatives, practice changes, and then increased into more service development. And then I started to become involved in quality improvement. But at the time that I first became involved, I don't think I really truly knew what quality improvement meant. And I certainly didn't know the tools and the processes that I should be utilising. So this was me back in 1989, a little bit like Maureen's photo this morning. I can't quite believe that was me. I had no idea what my future held professionally. Here I am, 2019. It's been an amazing journey and continues to be so. And I have achieved not just some wrinkles and a few pounds, but I have achieved a wealth of experience, skills and knowledge. And all of that has helped me prepare for my current role as a project lead midwife and the leadership, the transformational and influential leadership that is required. So it's about having a vision, sharing the vision, and enabling others to embrace that vision, motivating others, influencing, but challenging current practices, all the time engaging not just with other professionals, but with the service users. And it's about coming together in partnership to really promote creativity. Of course, you have to be resilient, you have to be able to resolve conflict. You not only challenge, but are challenged, and you've got to deal with barriers and fear, and of course, our biggest angst, resources. But you need to have the passion, and I know we're using a lot of quotes today, but Roald Dahl, I think if you just briefly read that, if you're interested in something, no matter what it is, go at it at full speed, embrace it with both arms, hug it, love it, and above all, become passionate about it. That's what midwifery-led services and outcomes for women means to me. It's about passion. So my current QI project is about embedding and sustaining the Active Birth Centre, which is an alongside midwifery-led unit within Belfast Trust Maternity Services. And I had 9-month gestation, I'm a midwife, 9 months to do it. So where we started really was with the evidence base, and there's a huge evidence base out there to suggest that mothers who are deemed to be at low risk of complications actually will have safer, better outcomes if they birth under a midwifery-led service. So that could be a home birth, a standalone midwifery-led unit, or a stand alongside, which is co-located to an obstetric delivery suite. So I followed a NHS Improvement 6-stage project management approach. So we looked at what have we got currently, what do we want to achieve, what's our dream, what are we going to implement, what are our aims and objectives, what tasks are we going to need to do, and how are we going to measure this. So we developed a PID, a very robust communication strategy, and an issues log. And I have to say the issues log is the one that I dip in and out of absolutely every day. Small issues, small challenges and large ones. And then, as we've been talking about today, PDSA cycles, ongoing, just determining if we're making a difference. And then, of course, the Gantt chart timeline. This was put together way back at the beginning of the project in October, and I have to tell you, things take much longer than you ever expect. Driver diagrams, those of you that are familiar with QI will be familiar with driver diagrams. This is a very busy slide and I don't expect you to read it all, but just to let you know that the aim was not just embedding and sustaining our Active Birth Centre, but about increasing the activity. And we benchmarked against similar units and realised from the year before we started the project, we really wanted to increase our activity, our births in the unit by 50%. Then the rest is the primary and secondary drivers, and those change ideas or tasks that we wanted to utilise. And that covered things like setting up a really robust and supportive steering and operational group, interaction and engagement with staff to build confidence, interaction and engagement and co-production with our service users, promotion of the actual unit so that women knew about it in our communities, and of course then our measuring outcomes, which is important. I'm not sure if this is ink friendly or not. I do like my colours, but these sort of graphs are shared and this data are shared not just with staff but with our service users. And what that actually shows you is that we have, in the first 4 months, October through to January, increased our activity by 205%. So we're delighted and we hope it continues. The most important thing is about the outcomes for mothers. So back to the driver diagram, I just want to home in on these. All of these drivers and tasks are in relation to our service users. And we've heard a little bit about co-production this morning. This is why I entitled my presentation, Not My QI. It's not. It's about interaction with my team, the multidisciplinary team, but more important, it's about asking women what matters to them. And not just asking what matters, but involving them in the project is so powerful. These are the people that use the service, so we want to ensure that they are the people that are designing the service. So true co-production, co-design is about, like a midwife, it's about being with the woman. It's not working with the woman, it's not about working to the woman. So when we first set up the project in a steering group and operation group, we have service user input, and we are trying to make it equal, that we don't have a larger group of professionals, and we have a very strong and robust service user input. Complaints and compliments we're monitoring, and service user feedback by SurveyMonkey. Questionnaires. We've run numerous focus groups, and the service users themselves have facilitated focus groups I'm going to show you in a second. We've done co-production and co-design, true co-production of information leaflets, infographics, and we're working on our standard operating procedure guidelines co-produced. We're very pleased that we are actually taking the appreciative inquiry approach of engagement, because this is about not looking at what the problems are or the lack, it's looking at and engaging in what's strong, not what's wrong. And then we're involving the arts and health team as well to do some creativity. This was our unit, the entrance, in October. And a group of mothers asked to come in and to spend a couple of hours in the unit, 4-bedded area, and just get a feel for the environment and feed back to us how they felt it should be, without any resources. So that was the entrance with a water fountain in the corner. That was what they put together, just 3 chairs, a coffee table, some refreshments. All of a sudden, we're welcome. And we have since gone ahead and ordered a beautiful corner sofa, coffee making machine, so it'll become even better. That's the corridor. Beautiful colours, the women chose the colours, but nothing else. So we put some beautiful flowers along. Now we have unfortunately since had to remove those because it's not infection prevention friendly, but we're doing some artwork in the hope that we can do artwork on the windows. That's one of the rooms. To me, that's clinical. Those are the names of the rooms that the women actually chose. Those instill and paint a picture of home-like, spa-like, with a little bit of thought. That's what it looked like. Dim the lights, add some soft furnishings, use the birthing equipment that we have available, push the bed out into the corner, and put a mattress on the floor so that's the focus, to promote normality and safe outcomes. That's exactly what our service user desired. So all I would say is, from a point of view of any service development, quality improvement project, small initiatives, share. We've already said that this morning. Share and spread the good work and the learning. Let's collaborate and celebrate what we do well. And I think, again, it's important that, going forward with the future nurse and midwife, that's what we should be doing, celebrating our profession. And I'm just finishing with this quote. It is people, not strategies, that bring about change, and it is relationships, not systems, which make it work. So thank you.